right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. The State of the Nation discussion starts right now. Let me introduce my guest one more time. Professor Tom Ojienda is here, the Senator for Kisumu. Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you.
Honorable Joe Newton is also here, Senator for Muranga. Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you.
And Willis Etieno, Advocate of the High Court and Deputy Party Leader Safina. Thank you very much for making time.
Thank you.
So before we get into this top story on the Standard, proposed revenue law raises a storm. The Council of Governors has raised objections to the proposal by the Commission for Revenue Allocation to reduce the weight of population while increasing that of land in its revenue sharing formula that will see 24 counties lose billions of shillings. Now that has raised a storm. As that is happening, let me set the stage for a different conversation still on the counties. The Auditor General has unearthed massive looting in counties through operation of multiple bank accounts that is used to siphon taxpayers' money. While appearing before the Special Senate Committee on Funds, chaired by Vihiga Senator Godfrey Osotsi, Auditor General Nancy Gathungu revealed that some counties illegally operate more than 200 bank accounts. Listen to Stephen Leto.
But I think that
in a 5-hour session with the Senate Committee on Special Funds, Auditor General Nancy Gathungu opened the lead on the new strategy devised by counties to hide stolen taxpayers' money. It emerged that some counties illegally hold up to 200 bank accounts used as a conduit to siphon taxpayers' money.
Or sometimes you'll find a dormant account in 1 year or for 2-3 years, and then suddenly it receives money. The money comes in and goes out, so we follow and we find, no, it was a vehicle to put aside. I think you also understand.
Are you trying to say a vehicle for eating?
It further emerged that the duplicate bank accounts are opened under several departments, but the money banked is channeled to other use.
We find that County X is doing the same number of services, but only running 10 accounts. County Y is running the same services and providing the same services for their counties, but has got 200 accounts.
It will depend on the situation, but more than 10, it's too much. So 300 don't make sense to me, or even 200.
I've seen so many audit queries related to that. Is this an area that you can consider prioritizing in terms of performance audit, so that we really find out where the problem is?
The Auditor General further told the Senate that some of those bank accounts are allocated millions of shillings and purports to pay for services under the national government's purview.
You've seen counties now have established bursaries, and they're giving bursaries to secondary schools, and I thought secondary schools education is under national government. So now you have a problem, and I'm very glad that we're having a national conversation now on affordable education and how to minimize all this.
Do you then recommend to this committee that we should look into amending the law, the PFM Act? I think it's section 116, if I'm not wrong, on setting up funds.
The Auditor General also raised issue on the onsource revenue by counties as another avenue for theft of public funds. Some counties are said to be under-declaring their revenue collections or targets. In the last Controller of Budget report, Kericho, Nyandarua, Machakos and Lamu counties were listed as counties that registered the lowest collection, falling below target. According to the Senate session, they either failed to submit all their collections to the Consolidated Fund or they set up an ambitious target. On the other hand, Uasin Gishu, Meru, Wajir and Narok counties exceeded their collection targets during the reporting period, with their collections matching their overall revenue targets.
Why is it that this year this agency collected 2 billion and this year it has gone to 1.6 billion with no explanation? Is it siphoning?
The pending bills headache also featured in the Senate session.
If pending bills are more than the outstanding exchequer releases, then you have a problem of fiscal indiscipline.
Suppliers are finding themselves in a whirlwind whereby, most of the projects are stalling, their own businesses are collapsing.
And if you did a good performance audit, then as a Senate, we'll be able to act on your report, and that would improve the way our counties receive money and the way approvals of expenditure is done.
Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
Prof, you're in this committee, the Senate Special Funds Committee. How could this happen in the full glare of the Senate? Are you that inept or toothless, so to speak?
Thank you, Trevor. Public investments, CIPIC, it does oversight on funds, and I think largely we operate or are guided by the PFM Act in terms of oversight in counties. And the true scenario is this. Number one, counties operate several funds. And to operate a fund, a county would have to enact a law that would guide the running of a fund. For instance, you have emergency funds, you have bursary funds, you have, there are some funds that, for instance, target the improvement of farming in particular counties. They target specific activities. So every fund would have, for instance, a fund manager, and there would be an accompanying account to which the county would then transfer money from its main account, so that when finally the Auditor General oversights or does accounts relevant to that particular county, there will be an account for that particular fund. So when at the end of the financial year we review these funds, or the County Public Investment Committee then reviews, we look at each specific fund. And so you find that many counties, and I think this is because now we are in the we have third governance now, we are in the third level. The first epoch, of course, you had governors opening accounts, second level, then third level. I think counties then chose, or some governors then chose, not to disturb certain accounts and to leave them out there in suspense and open new accounts. I think some governors also target new funds, perhaps donor funding and other forms of funding, that they then do not use the funds from the main account where the money is transferred from the exchequer for the operation of the county, and use other accounts.
Yeah.
So overall, you find that some counties have several accounts. And it is true what Senator Eddie Gisheru was talking about. There are counties that have over 15, 20, 30, 80 accounts, And I think that is what the Auditor General was addressing. Nancy Gathungu, the Auditor General, was simply saying that it is suspect that a county should maintain or have run so many accounts.
Yeah.
But I think there would be, of course, reasons why certain accounts, for instance, I do not know, for instance, why a county would maintain accounts that have either no funds, little funds, or that have no activity.
So there's no continuity here. It means that each and every governor comes in and opens new accounts.
I think that is a point, or an account targeting specific funds. So you also have possible situations where a CC comes into office, you appoint a CC Finance, and of course the chief officer, CFOs, and those who operate the accounts, and the accountant, they come in, instead of perhaps trying to manage a transition where previous account owners sign, maybe they want to have their own accounts, fresh accounts, and we don't want to deal with former accounts.
Yeah.
But those accounts still will be maintained in the name of the county. I think that's the problem.
But doesn't that open the floodgates for possible embezzlement of funds? Because how can you keep track of more than 200 bank accounts?
That is the point that the Auditor General was addressing yesterday, that perhaps Senate, or we should look at amending the Public Finance Management Act so that you control accounts or limit accounts that a county can operate. Because you create the floodgate, the possible floodgate, that there could be
embezzlement of funds.
Or not even embezzlement, but there could be misdeeds. Let me use a legal term. On the part of those officers, because you can't keep having new accounts upon receiving new funds.
Okay.
Because you need to operate. Eventually, when the audits are done, we do not want all these accounts lead to the possibility that a county could escape an audit dragnet or an audit query or an audit question when you are you are auditing the main account, and there are other outlier accounts there that may not be disclosed.
Yeah.
So I think there's need, and that's what Senate said yesterday. One, there should be full disclosure by counties on all these accounts. But number two, which is important, is that we need to amend the law to limit accounts that these counties can run, so that you have some level of control.
Okay. Joe, does it make sense for a county to have more than 200 bank accounts?
Thank you, Trevor. And I've listened very keenly to my colleague, Professor Tom Ojenda, taking us through accounts of counties and, various funds that warrant, of course, opening of different accounts. But I think, of course, I do not serve in that committee, Public Investments Committee. But I do not think that, especially what Professor Ojenda is saying, that, when a new county government comes in, they want to open new accounts because maybe they think they may not be able to run the accounts that were being run by the previous government. But I think, Trevor, that is why you have a handing over from one government to the next. And so, really, I am not convinced that a new county government they should actually not even open a new account. They should just inherit the old accounts, and the outgoing county government should be able to hand over everything, and we have new signatories. Otherwise, I don't think any new government, any new county government will be offering any new or any different function. Yeah. And so, because all the functions of a county government, of course, are in perpetuity. I mean, they continue from the previous county government to the current county government. I think once a good handing over ceremony is done and transfer and the new signatories come in, I really do not think that the new accounts should be opened because, of course, it's an avenue for corruption, just like the Auditor General observed in their Public Investments Committee yesterday.
Well, it's close to 10 years on is when we're now realizing that there's multiple accounts in the counties and nobody has done anything about it. Some of them operate more than 200 bank accounts. What do you think is the problem here? Is it an issue of the law, or is it just people coming up with crafty ways of embezzling funds?
I believe this is intended mischief. And these two gentlemen here are senators. Their primary responsibility is to oversight counties. That's their primary responsibility. What we are saying today, they should have said it 10 years ago. If you look at Article 207 of the Constitution, it talks about all monies received by a county should be paid into a revenue fund. So the intendment of the Constitution was that all monies should be managed from one focal point. In terms of accounts, it's just now a matter of administration. But if the Constitution had envisaged that we all go into one pot, all monies received go into one pot. So logically, you'll expect that even in terms of disbursement or management, administration, you cannot start opening so many pots, 200 pots. For coming from one fund, it doesn't make sense. But if you ask any of the governors or even the senators, what is the mischief that the 200 accounts is meant to address? They'll not tell you. So it only means that the mischief in place is that some governors, are setting up avenues through which they can hide the embezzlement of county funds. And that is exactly what is happening. No governor can give you a plausible explanation why they are maintaining 200 accounts. And look at it. There's only one chief officer of finance. There's only one CC for finance. If it came to a question of administering the funds that the county have received, is that individual singular officer who ultimately signs what goes out. So what explanation will you give me? Are you trying to say that you want to open an account for a particular department for them to be able to quickly release money? The chief officer of finance can always, and in most cases, they've actually deployed accountants into the various departments in the county. They all answer the chief officer finance, and then there's ultimately the CEC and the county governor. So there is no explanation other than this is just a scheme to fleece the people of Kenya of their money.
But Prof is saying that there might be some money that you expect from donor funding that you think should be allocated to a different account, for specific functions also a different account. You had his explanation. You don't buy it?
I'll just read for you 207, Article 207 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
It is set out in very explicit terms. And the terms are that all revenue received by a county shall be paid into a revenue fund. So even all donor grants or donations must find their way into that revenue fund. The national government allocation to the county must find itself in that revenue fund. The county's own revenue, whatever they've collected, must find its way into that singular revenue fund. You cannot have a situation where a county is running a parallel fund through an account that does not find itself in the revenue fund as provided in Article 207 of the Constitution. So you cannot give any explanation whatsoever. Because all monies from the counties must get to one fund. Just in similar fashion at the national government, Article 206 requires that all monies received by the national government must find its way into the consolidated fund, including donations, including loans. That was the proposal of the Constitution. But of course, we know what Ruto and his people have done. They've decided to illegally amend the PFM Act, and these senators are keeping quiet, that now people are taking loans in our names, spending it in Europe. They take some loans in our names, go and spend it in Qatar. They are lining in accounts in Qatar. Just for the singular reason to defeat the objective of Article 206 of our Constitution.
Okay. Prof, are you saying that all this time you did not know as senators that there was a loophole there?
I think
Nancy, it took their Auditor General to enlighten all of you.
You know, we were very safe when we were dealing with Article 207. Now, the Deputy Party Leader, Safina, now goes to Article 206 and then makes wild allegations. Let's stick to 207. And 207 is this, and it's correct on the CRF, the County Revenue Fund. All monies received by counties, whether through donor funding or from the exchequer, must go into that single account. Because the audit process will follow the trail from that account. Any spending to funds, other funds that have other accounts, would have to be drawn from the CRF, so that you then commit the sums from the CRF to the other accounts, and then there's a trail. That's the law, and it's right to that extent. The other, just ignore what he said on 206, because we are dealing with 207. But Trevor,
you can respond.
Why should he ignore? I mean, when I say, I've just said that I'm using a parallel, what we set up for the national. And that's the same thing we set up for the counties. And I'm telling you, in particular, in terms of 206, we've actually followed, because Professor used an example of donations or donor money being paid to a particular account. And I said, that is not correct. Even if I look at 206, people received money in the names of the people of Kenya. Eurobond 1 billion went to Qatar, didn't come into Kenya. That's a fact.
Yes, but you know when that happened, of course.
The point is, I know very well when it happened. During the Ruto regime, Uhuru and Ruto were in power, Jubilee.
Well, I think
you're in the floor, Prof.
So Trevor, that is the whole essence of accounting and oversight. And that is what the CP committee does. I told you, my chair is Senator Osotsi. We engage the OAG to ensure that we have an audit of these accounts. And that is why this came up yesterday. And this is not the first time that this issue has cropped up. Whenever we do oversight, we realize the existence of a number of accounts. And when you question governance on these accounts, they always say that some of those accounts were opened by their predecessors. That's why yesterday's meeting was important, because the Auditor General has to look at this trail and oversight counties, because it is their role to do audits. It is not our role we do oversight. We look at reports from the Auditor General and other entities. There's no other way that Senate can do oversight other than through official documents. So, but let me just say this, that the Auditor General is doing a good job. She has to do over 12,000 reports within a span of 12 months. It's like like 1,000 reports per month. It's a lot of work for the Auditor General. I think Gathungu is doing a very good job. But let me say this, that I think it is time that counties are put into check on the running of these specific accounts. You have one CC, you have one CFO. And the CC and CFO must own up to the need to ensure, and the transition that Joe Newton has talked about is important, that whenever there's a transition, counties must manage transitions to the extent that they take over all the proper accounts run by their predecessors, so that we don't have situations where new accounts are open merely because, of course, once an election has occurred and CCs lose their officers and CFOs, you may not trace some may not be there, but I'm sure since some of them are still, they must still seek or be paid benefits from the county, they should properly hand over so that we don't have the situation that is prevailing in counties now. But there are too many accounts that you cannot understand why you have all these accounts. Yet, as my friend, the deputy party leader says, you can only run everything from the CRF. So that you then can have a trail of accountability. And at 207 running all the way to 216.
Joe, have you failed as senators to carry out your oversight mandate of the counties? Because it's also yesterday, the Auditor General revealed that she doesn't understand why the counties have so much pending bills, in as much as the explanation before was that the money is not sent to them from the national government on time. She said that at the end of the year, every single coin had already been sent. Therefore, it does not make sense that counties still have huge pending bills. So that if a contractor did something for this year, 2024, it should not go beyond that year before they're paid, because all the money that the county was expecting will be remitted at the end of the year. Have you, as senators, failed in your oversight role?
Thank you. Trevor, you have raised a very fundamental issue. Because I think, from my understanding of oversight, and I think I'll pick from where Professor Tom Ojenda left, that the Senate can only oversight, we are like morticians of a kind. Because, the Senate, a senator, talk of a senator does not approve or disapprove any county expenditure before it is expended. I mean, that is the role of the county assembly. The county assembly approves all the programs and all the expenditure by the county government, so that we as Senate can only look at what happened, look at the books, the spending after it has happened, because we are not consulted and asked whether, county funds should be expended in this manner before it is expended. And that's why I'm saying the Senate is like a mortician. So we have to rely on the reports of bodies like the OAG, because they have the infrastructure to be able to deal with this. Remember, the Senate does not have a structure. We do not have our own auditors that we can send to the county to go and see what is happening. We can only rely on the reports that are made by the Auditor General. And so ours is to exactly audit after it has already happened.
But we have not seen any strong recommendations from you, because essentially what you're saying is that you can oversight incompetence because you're toothless.
We may not be toothless, but I think for me, the basis of my argument is if senators were to approve the programs of counties before they are undertaken, then I think a senator would have a bigger responsibility and would be more answerable about the happenings at the county, the expenditure in the county. But now, I mean, I think, let me put it this way, but that we need to empower our county assemblies so that they do not approve budgets that are not for the good, or that do not have that are not for the good of the people in the counties. Otherwise, the county assemblies, for me, have the primary responsibility of oversighting county funds, and not the Senate. And that is why, even when we come to impeachment of governors, the Senate cannot initiate this. It can only be initiated by the county assembly, and then so for us, they bring it to us so that we can approve or disapprove.
Willis, what are your thoughts on this? Is it necessary, these checks and balances that we seem to try and put, but there's also still a bit of backpassing when it comes to who's supposed to do what?
I'm actually finding it interesting that the senators are trying to backpass to the county assemblies. When Kenyans were drawing up their governance architecture, They were aware that county assemblies will exist and the governors will exist, but they still insisted to have senators in office. And the primary function of the senator is to represent the interests of the counties. They are actually the ultimate watchdog of the county. And we did know at the time that we may have instances where the county assemblies and the governors will collude. So we remove the senators and bring them to Nairobi to collectively act as an oversight over those counties. But they cannot say that we should be asking the county assembly to play that primary role. We are aware that county assemblies may be bought. We are aware that they may collude with the county governors. That is why we have senators who, in fact, in terms of exercising their oversight role, they do it beyond just the singular senator from that particular region. So you have Professor Jenda and you have Mr. Nyutu sitting as a collective nationally to make sure that if the people of Kisumu have been captured, for example, by their governor, I'm not saying they have, then we have this national representative body oversighting what is going on down there. The Senate should not for any singular moment be referred to as a mortician. The Senate is a guard dog that is meant to make noise when they feel that there is intrusion into the home. They should not act as a CCTV that will only tell you what happened. A guard dog will make noise, a guard dog will attack to stop. So our senators need to act as guard dogs over the counties to make sure that when they see instances of impropriety, don't wait for it to happen. Take action before. Otherwise, as Mr. Nyutu says, we'll end up always reading the book of Lamentations every day in national TV and at the Senate, where we are saying, this has happened, this has happened. But that is not what Kenyans want. Okay. We can read the book of Lamentations on our own, and Kenyans are doing it every day. Anyway, what we expect of these two gentlemen is positive action. Yeah. They cannot join the same space as, for example, Jagwasi in Kisumu, at Kisumu Bunge, does, lamenting. Senator Ojenda has a higher responsibility. He does not have the luxury of lamentation. He must read for us the book of Proverbs or Psalms, not the book of Lamentation. Okay, I'll take a quick break. When we come back, we talk about something else. Trevor, if you may. Send your views at Trevor Bridge at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're back in just a bit.